Thank you for tuning into this recorded version of our September virtual workshop. We want to begin by really acknowledging each and every one of you, thanking you for all the effort and energy and innovation you are putting into teaching, whether you're doing so in person or remotely, and all the ways that you are caring for our students, and we hope also caring for yourselves. That's something we want to encourage you to do as well. So thank you for turning up for this virtual workshop with Colleen and myself, Laura. We're going to have a few puns here as we go because after all, it is a Big Green Indie workshop. In the live version, we took time to go into the chat and have everyone drop their name, their school, their role with the Learning Garden, and a favorite fall veggie or fruit. We also took time to share in a platform called Padlet. So there is a link there. We will include that link in the email with this video so that you can go there directly. If you'd like to see what other teachers typed in, you're also welcome to add your own comments. Colleen and I will be checking those for additional comments about how the Learning Garden is being or has been used at your school this semester. If it isn't being used, if there's specific barriers or reasons or policies that are keeping it from being used, and also if there are things you're still hoping to accomplish or do related to the Learning Garden or Big Green this semester, or even things you want to put on our radar for this spring, please feel free to drop those into the Padlet link there. When you get there, it's fairly self-explanatory. You'll just be adding notes underneath the different question columns as you choose. So we went through what you'll find there in the Padlet that other teachers shared, and then we have wanted to take some time to share a couple of additional methods of engagement that Colleen and I have seen happening here in Indianapolis. So the first one is with Enlace in the outdoor classroom with Mr. D. I had the opportunity to go out last Tuesday with Mr. D's class and observe. And so Mr. D is at Enlace Academy. It is an innovation in the Innovation School Network within IPS. And they have been in person with K through 3. And Mr. D told the school that he was doing STEM classes before COVID and requested that he be able to use the Learning Garden as his classroom space due to some health concerns of his own for coming back and teaching in person. So the school was agreeable, and he has 2 second grade classrooms every day that come out for specials as well as lunchtime. And he is teaching all of the specials, STEM in addition now to PE, art, music, and SEL for those students. Colleen will move the slide forward here. They have used a number of methods to help students keep space between each other in the Learning Garden. When they're lining up, they've used spray paint here on the sidewalk to keep students the appropriate distance apart. Some schools may be able to actually spray paint along the outer edge of the Learning Garden if you have an existing paved surface there where you can indicate where students could sit or stand in that space. Mr. D encourages other teachers who want to use the Learning Garden as an outdoor classroom to be prepared and to be organized, both for your own needs as a teacher or another type of instructor, as well as for students' needs. And this is something that we also will reinforce with you. So making sure that you have the supplies that you are going to need for the class that you're teaching, whether you're going to be out there as your classroom space regularly or you're just taking a class out for a little while. Check that you've got the supplies you need, that the students will have the supplies they need, and particularly now during COVID, that you have disinfectant or a way to disinfect any supplies that are going to be shared, as well as hand sanitizer for yourself and students. And it's helpful to remember to have a trash can available. We run into that a lot in the Learning Garden. You can see here in this picture that they have on the left side, there is a little pad for students to sit on. as well as a clipboard. And so those get disinfected between each class. And then in this case, there's paper here ready for the students to use. Of course, the Learning Garden space and your outdoor spaces can also be used exclusively for lunch or during recess. It's good to have a plan for the Learning Garden if it's being incorporated into recess, so that it's not a free-for-all space, but one where students could choose to engage in a specific activity in that space. So just making the most of those outdoor spaces at a school right now really works in line with the recommendations of the American Academy of Pediatrics and a number of other organizations that are encouraging schools to think about using their outdoor spaces for the health of students and teachers during COVID. Mr. T had some special tips to recommend for teachers, being very clear with students before they go out that the Learning Garden, this space, is an outdoor classroom. The same expectations will apply in the outdoor classroom as they do in the indoor classroom, and he has found that setting those expectations enables students to follow them and to treat the Learning Garden space as an outdoor classroom accordingly. And I will mention that prior to COVID, he was regularly taking classes out to the Learning Garden as well. I'm sure many of you have experienced this yourselves as frequent users if you have been using the Learning Garden. And for those of you who may be new to having a Learning Garden or taking students out, it's a good tip to remember. He also reminds teachers to be organized and be ready, as we mentioned before, making sure you have what you need, that students have what they're going to need. And one thing that he emphasized is to really think about how you're going to respond to bugs, whether it's a bee or a yellow jacket or ants or a spider, caterpillars, things like that, and other outdoor distractions. There may be different noises from traffic or from construction or from other classes being out in other outdoor areas adjacent. And he really wanted to emphasize that the students are going to follow your lead. So if you're scared of the insects that you find or the bugs that you encounter, they're going to take that cue. If you're distracted by the other noises and the other students, then they're going to take that cue. So helping to model the behavior that you want will help to have a more successful experience in the Learning Garden. And so much of this is the same as it would be inside. It's just good to be reminded as well. I'm going to turn it over to Colleen to talk about at-home grow kits.
Hi, Colleen here, and I'd like to share a little bit about the grow kit idea that we are trying to support for our schools, either for the virtual students or for the in-person students over holiday breaks. All you need for an at-home grow kit is a container, lid, soil, and seeds. The soil and seeds are thankfully donated to Big Green Indianapolis, and Laura and I would love to help distribute these supplies to as many schools that are interested. I don't think we can support every student in every school, but if there's a really interested teacher or a lesson that could go along with the grow kit and you know exactly who you want to send these home with, let us know. The containers can be upcycled deli containers, salad containers, or you can get new containers if you'd like. Also, a lid is helpful. It conserves the water and can demonstrate the water cycling through, similar to the water cycle outside. And then the soil and the seeds, the growing medium and a variety of seeds is nice. The kids can do a seed study and examine the shapes and the different textures of the seeds, then plant them and watch how they grow differently. That's really all you need. These are meant to do germination studies. Possibly you could grow microgreens in them if you seeded very densely. But otherwise, it's to see the different parts of the plant. If you have a clear container, you can see the roots down in the soil through the clear container. You can see the little cotyledon as they come up and the new baby leaves that start to come out. You can compare different growth rates, and you could even do multiple containers and do different experiments and different treatments, different levels of watering, different levels of light, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different ways that you could build lessons out on that. Now, Laura and I are working on some pre-recorded videos on just the components of the container, the soil, the growing medium, the seeds, and how to water it and take care of it so that it could be a self-contained package that you wouldn't need to do much for other than help get the containers and the supplies to the students. You could send them the links to our pre-recorded lessons and have it run itself essentially at the pace that the students are available and able to do it. So this is something that we're looking forward to offer perhaps over Christmas break or for the virtual students who choose to learn from home.
We gave time for those participating in the workshop in person to share any questions or reflections they have. We welcome you to email us, cdonahoe@biggreen.org or lhenderson@biggreen.org. We'd love to always know what questions you have and also what reflections you have to share. And here we are going to share with you a video that we created. We actually created this here in Indianapolis, but it's being used nationally for garden safety, taking classes out during COVID. So you can watch this video. It is available on our website, biggreen.org. If you would like to use it before taking a class out, you're welcome to do so.
There are a few key steps you can take to plan ahead. First, decide what students will be doing in the garden before you go outside. For example, will students be gardening or will they be doing classwork outside? Next, how many students will be going out to the garden? Consider dividing the class into 2 or 3 smaller groups. One group can work in garden stations or be divided into 1 student per garden bed, while the other works on classwork. This case study shows how to best coordinate seating for students in the learning garden, as well as other important factors to consider for safety. Tell students the plan. Pre-assign students groups. Let students know Group 1 will work in the garden while Group 2 is doing classwork. Tell them how long they will be doing each activity. Remind students the garden is an outdoor classroom. We have the same expectations outside as we have inside. Have students name expectations ahead of time in the classroom. In these expectations, be sure to include that students must wear their masks. When we plant seeds, we want them completely covered by soil. When we wear masks, we want our noses and mouths completely covered too. Seeds need space to grow. Seeds that are too close together can't grow, and they are more likely to pass plant diseases from one plant to another. Just like the seeds, we will keep space between students. Set up a hand washing station in the learning garden. Hand washing guidelines students should be aware of include: wash your hands before and after gardening. Using a bucket and soap, wash hands according to CDC guidelines for at least 20 seconds. Scrub your arms, hands, and fingernails. Rinse and dry with a paper towel. Try to avoid sharing tools in the garden. If students must share tools, make sure to disinfect any tools that have been shared between students. Wipe down or spray all surfaces before and after you touch them. These surfaces include benches, tables, the edges of garden beds, hoses, spigots, storage box locks, watering containers, planting strings, and other tools. Ways to disinfect surfaces include disinfecting with bleach solution by using 2 teaspoons of bleach per 2 cups of water. Leave on the surface for at least 1 minute before wiping down. Alternately, you can scrub the surface with soap and water, or you can use disinfectant wipes. If you want to share specific events, lessons, or activities in the Learning Garden with more students, consider recording these lessons in order to share them in classrooms for greater safety. For more details on maintaining safety in the Learning Garden during COVID-19, watch this video on our channel. Thank you. Safe gardening is happy gardening.
You'll also find some additional resources to support the use of the Learning Garden during this time and the use of outdoor space at the school for class time during this time. So there is an additional video with COVID safety protocols. You saw that referenced at the end of the Gardening with Students Safely. There are a couple of documents that just offer some visuals related to how you might space students in the Learning Garden. So you saw that in the initial slide with Mr. D's class, that there was plenty of space for the students to be 3 to 6 or more feet apart. There are also some document there linked at the website biggreen.org under Educator Resources. And we'll make sure you have a direct link for these in the email that goes along with this video. But it just helps you to think about how you might mark space, such as spray painting on the ground or using a rope with knots tied in it to measure spacing, that kind of thing. And there is a sign that you could print for Learning Garden safety signage if you don't have that already. And I'll turn it over to Colleen for harvesting during COVID and some new tips and techniques she has been testing out at schools.
Thanks, Laura. So yes, I've been fortunate enough to participate in some harvest days in person with students. It's been very fun. And what I have tried to do is limit the touch points of the produce by having the students each harvest into their own bag and then sending them home with a mixed bag of produce. So I would encourage you, if you have the time, to have the students label their bags in advance, maybe with a piece of masking tape, and then have their bags when they go out to the garden. And of course, they need to wash their hands first, so we've been setting up a hand washing station in the Learning Gardens for that, or you can have them wash their hands before they come out. The more prep work and communication that you do in advance with the students, then the easier it will flow once you're out into the garden. So they each have their own bags, and then there are different stations of different produce that they can harvest into. So if you want to include more classes in the harvest process, you can stretch this out over several days. Rather than trying to harvest everything in one day, or having one class harvest one whole bed, have each student just take a handful or one radish or one carrot for their mixed bag, and then invite several other classes to come out throughout the harvest week to be able to enjoy that produce. And if you're able to connect your classroom lessons to the upcoming harvest, either through estimation of volume or weight, through measurement lessons, through making predictions, and then revisiting those predictions as far as what the produce is going to look like, what it's going to taste like, all those different ideas, that's going to also help them remember and be excited about the harvest. And so those are my main tips. I'm excited to learn more as I continue harvesting with you guys and see how this evolves. I'm going to pass it back over to Laura to talk about some new resources that Big Green has developed to help with the virtual and the in-person learning right now.
We also wanted to make you aware of some resources for teaching and learning that are new or can be found in a new way on our website. So the pepper in this is an active link, or you can go to biggreen.org and then click on Educator Resources. From there, there's a new menu of options. So if you start at curriculum and activities, this will take you to links for our Ready, Set, Grow curriculum, which has at this point replaced Garden Bites. If you were trained in Garden Bites and you still have that curriculum printed, you're welcome to continue using it. Ready, Set, Grow is what we are moving forward with at this time. It supports the integration of the Learning Garden with food literacy programming and incorporates extensions that target next generation science, national health education, and Common Core English and Language Arts standards and targets. So if you scroll on down there below the descriptions, you'll find 3 squares. The first square you'll click on in order to register for the curriculum. So there's no fee, there is no training required to access the curriculum. We are asking you to register so that we are able to provide information metrics about how many educators are using the curriculum and roughly what parts of the country are using it. Also helps us to be able to reach out to you and see if you need any support or assistance. And so once you register, it will immediately give you a password for the second box, Access, Ready, Set, Grow. I believe it will also just allow you to move directly into the curriculum from there, but when you come back, once you have that password, save it, and you'll be able to go directly to Access, Ready, Set, Grow. Or if you are working with the Real Food Lab curriculum, you'll have the password to directly access that. So there are not trainings required to access those curriculums right now. You just have to register for the password. Although there are not trainings required, we do want to support you with additional training if you'd like to have it. So from the main menu bar under Educator Resources, the next link down is for professional development. And if you go to that tab, you'll find that there is now a 4-hour Google Classroom that will help you to just be more prepared for teaching Ready, Set, Grow. So that's a 4-hour self-led Google Classroom that you can complete. You can receive PGP points for this. So if you let us know, that we will send you a link to register for to earn professional growth points for completing the Ready, Set, Grow teaching Google Classroom. The food literacy course, this course will take about 10 to 15 hours to complete. This is not a course that at this time you would be turning around and teaching as curriculum for students. This is really for your own learning. This is also, you can register in Wisdomware to earn professional growth points for completing this course as well. And that first module of the food literacy, if you just want to take a smaller dive in at first, you can do the first module. That's 3 hours, and that is available now as well. So again, you can contact myself or Colleen if you wish to register to earn professional growth points for any of those 3 modules. And soon there will be a Google Classroom course that you can take yourself through for Real Food Lab. That is in the works. Also under Educator Resources, the third link down is for virtual learning. So this virtual learning, here you will need to complete a type form, which again is really just enabling us to track who is using the Google course. And so what this virtual learning is going to do, once you complete all of the questions here in the type form, and then you should bookmark that page so that you don't have to go through the type form again in order to access the virtual learning. But it is going to give you access to a Google Classroom that has a template for you to use with students. So this is a free student-facing Google Classroom course and course drives, meaning you're going to make a template of the Google Classroom If for some reason there are firewalls and things blocking you in your district, you will actually have access to the course drives so that you can recreate that classroom in your own online learning platform for student use. And our team, particularly in the national office, is happy to help you with that if that is something you don't feel like you know how to do or comfortable doing on your own. So once you complete that type form for virtual classroom registration, you will then have access to the template for the student-facing Google Classroom that you can recreate or copy for your own students to use, as well as the course drives. Then we also wanted to point out for you, under Educator Resources, there are other activities and lessons. So if you click here, this is going to take you into our Big Green at Home site, which was developed starting in April in response to COVID. And here you'll find more, we call them bite-sized lessons and activity bundles for educators. So you can search by grade level. There are collections of activities. They're short, they're easy to implement, and they're things that students can do from home as well. So there's a number of fun and different lesson for grades 6 through 8 on food miles. There are some high school based lessons on grains, how seeds make society, food origins for 3 through 5. What does a farmer look like for grades 6 through 8? So there's a lot of different interesting lessons here. Garden soil community for K through 2. So we encourage you to have a look and see what might be useful for you, whether you're teaching in person or remotely. These can be some really great additional resources for you to use. And once you've linked over there, you'll be in the biggreenathome.org website. There's also a section there. So there's a section for educators and there's a section for families. So if you have families interested in signing up to receive a monthly email with hands-on learning activities that can be done at home, these are designed to be very low additional resource needs. So things that you don't really need to have a lot of specialized materials, or we've tried to make them very, very friendly for really a wide variety of households to be able to engage in these activities. Now, some of them do require some adult or older student, someone who can read, giving assistance to younger students, and some of them are more self-led for all ages. And they are divided more by category: gardening, videos, little green chefs, art, outdoor or indoor activities. So there's just a ton of resources there, and those will continue to grow as we continue to build out more family-oriented materials through Big Green at Home. And again, I mentioned this before, but under Educator Resources, if you are looking for harvesting tabs or watering tabs, some of the resources that you've been more familiar with, you're going to find those under Learning Garden Team Resources. So safety in the garden is there. That's where you'll find the videos and the documents I mentioned before to help you space out classes outside. You'll also find garden maintenance and troubleshooting, where you'll find harvesting, watering, planting, and a number of the tabs that you have been used to working with. Like if you're looking for that harvest form, you'll go there and under harvesting to find it. Of course, you can always email Colleen or I and ask us how to find something you can no longer find. Just tell us what you're looking for and we'll send you a direct link as well. So hopefully that is helpful. And then we ended our workshop with a raffle. Give away 2 grow kits that will be 25 containers with lids and soil for those containers and seeds. Those can be done as an in-classroom activity or sent home with students as a home activity. Thank you, and if you have any questions about the material covered here, we'd love to hear from you. Any reflections or feedback, please let us know. Thanks so much, and be well.